On page 54, there's a story called A Trip to the Farm in Wisconsin. A long, long time ago, when Grandpa was a little boy, we frequently took trips to the Brandon farm in Wisconsin. My father grew up as the second child in a family of 6 children of Norwegian ancestry. My grandfather, Anton E. Brandon, born July 8, 1860, had come to the United States on a sailboat from Norway when he was only 5 years old. My grandmother, Annie Marie Everson, married my grandfather on October 14, 1893. The Brandon family lived on a farm between Whitehall and Pigeon Falls, which is halfway between Eau Claire and La Crosse, Wisconsin. In my younger days, before age 8 or 9, Tommy and I would not be working in the fields, but would be watching what was going on. We would sometimes go down to the creek which ran through the farm and play in the water. The water was not deep, and the bottom was sandy with some sandbars, making it a great time, except for the water being cold. The Pigeon Creek was south of the farm, and a bridge crossed the creek just before getting to the Brandon farm. As we would turn into the farm, the lane led first to the old granary ice house building, then the barn, and then on to the house. If we kept going straight past the barn on the lane, we would come to the old tobacco and machine shed, which was one building. You can see a picture of this building on page 59. There was a chokecherry tree along the lane, and we would eat those little cherries and feel our mouth pucker. Near the chokecherry tree was a pile of junk made up of old farm equipment that was broken, rusted out, or otherwise discarded. A large tree was growing near the junk pile, and my father showed me where he had placed a chain in the fork of a tree when he was a boy. As the tree grew, it incorporated the old chain into the tree, and it was stuck there for good. The 120-acre farm was mainly hill and pasture with trees, mostly birch, some oak, and a few evergreens, with only 30 plowable acres. 10 of the acres were flat, allowing my grandparents to raise corn or oats. There were about 20 acres on the side of the hill where the hay was grown. My grandpa Brandon raised strawberries, which were sold to be shipped to Chicago by railroad. The story goes that he, in fact, would hire many school-age girls to pick the strawberries, and he would ride the bicycle to town and arrange the sale and transportation of those berries to Chicago. He also had raised tobacco, but that was rather labor-intensive, and they quit doing that in the early 1940s. The hay would be cut by the mower, which was pulled by the horses. It would then be allowed to dry in the sunshine of those warm, sunny days. The hay would be raked and then loaded on the hay rack or the wagon. After the hay was loaded onto the hay rack, it was pulled by the horses to the barn and then loaded with the horse-powered hay fork into the haymow of the barn. There was a hole in the floor of the haymow which would allow the hay to be dropped down to feed the cows throughout the winter. On top of page 56, there's a picture of horses and the mower. And this picture was taken at the Brandon farm in Wisconsin with a team of horses hitched to the mower. Tommy and I are sitting on the seat of the mower, and Daddy is in the back. Do you see the edge of the sickle bar on the right side of the mower, lying on the gravel? This is the cutting bar for the mower. That is the most dangerous part of the machine. The sickle bar is powered by the lugged wheel and operates only as the horses are pulling on the machine. The building to the back of this picture was called the Granary Ice House, in which there were small bins for oats and corn. There were also bins for blocks of ice which would be cut from the river with the saw in the winter. Sawdust was packed around the ice to try to keep it from melting. During the warmer months, this ice was used in the icebox to keep perishable food cool, much as we use a refrigerator. The farm provided lots of hard work for my grandparents, but it was also their chosen way of life. I cannot ever remember hearing anyone complain because they had to work hard. Well, maybe Aunt Alverne would complain sometimes. Neighbors came to help Uncle Floyd with haying or threshing, and then, when they had work to do, he would go help them in exchange. That sometimes happened while we were visiting, and therefore we would go to the neighboring farms as well. It was really a good arrangement and served to make friendships. Although I do not remember the neighbors specifically by name, I do know that there was great reward in neighbor helping neighbor. Those were times of hard work, but looking back, in many ways they were good times. It may be that I just remembered them as those good old days. In the year 1995, several of our children and their families went along on a trip to the Brandon farm and on to Hayward, Wisconsin. It was long ago, so do any of you remember the farm? This picture was taken on the front porch of the Brandon house, which is pictured on the next page.